Let's see. So everybody close them up. Let's go. So what we have today is we're introducing a new section, which is metamorphic rocks. Let me freeze this. And every year when I talk about metamorphic rocks, well, not every year. Now I've got it figured out. But I don't know if y'all do y'all think back on when you learned something and you don't remember what grade you learned it in?
Yep.
Yeah, you're just I know it. I don't remember what year it was. So does a little kid know it? Does freshmen know it? I don't know. I guess everybody knows it. That's something that I've been doing with a book that I read in college. And apparently for the first 3 years that I worked here, I thought that I read it in high school, and I didn't read it in high school. Every time I would bring it up, everybody's just what? What are you talking about? And so I'm still going to talk about it because it's a great book, and it traumatized me in my brain. But none of you have read it. So one day you're going to listen to me talk about this, and one day you're going to read it, and you're going to be like, Mr. Bailey was right. It's a messed up story. So in college, I read a story called The Metamorphosis. Yes? Yeah. So the people who have read The Metamorphosis, instant reaction. They're like, oh, God. It's a messed up story. It's literally the guy's name who wrote it is Kafka. And if someone's being super depressed and morose and they're everything just sucks, they're being Kafka-esque because this guy didn't see any sunshine in any of the rays. Everything's dark, everything's terrible. So in the book, The Metamorphosis, this boy wakes up and he's been turned in somehow magically he's been turned into a cockroach. And he's literally a 6-foot cockroach in his bedroom. And he goes through the story and basically he's terrified because his parents, obviously he turned into a cockroach, but his parents, instead of treating him like their son and being oh, we'll work through this, we'll figure it out, his parents basically treat him like a cockroach and they hate him. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the end of the story, they end up squishing him like a bug and killing him. And that's the story. Little boy gets turned into a cockroach and his parents hate him because now he's a cockroach and they kill him. Isn't that great? Don't we all feel happy now that we've read that story? And so every year when we talk about metamorphic rocks and metamorphosis, I think of the story Metamorphosis, which the important part of the word metamorphosis is what's happening to the boy or what's happening to a butterfly when they undergo metamorphosis. Change. They're undergoing some sort of change. And if you didn't change, you didn't metamorphose. If you built a cocoon and just stayed a caterpillar and never grew wings, then you didn't metamorphose. So when you see, to get back onto geology, when you see the word metamorphic rocks, know that these are rocks that have changed. They used to be something else. Now they're something different. That's the metamorphic part of the rocks. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those, how they form, what kind of rocks we have, what we use them for. And so here we go along the path of metamorphic rocks. So the main way to change a rock is to heat it up and pressurize it. If you heat and pressurize it, you've changed it. What most famously happens to coal if I heat and pressurize it? Well, you can burn coal, but specifically, if underneath the ground of a lot of heat and a lot of pressure, what will coal turn into? A diamond, yeah. That's the classic heat and pressure change things kind of stuff. I can take coal, which is essentially just carbon, and if I put it under enough heat and enough pressure and I squeeze it enough, it will turn into a diamond, which is way more expensive than coal. What? Oh yeah, we make diamonds all the time. The issue with diamonds is we as humans, which it doesn't matter chemically, we as humans value things that are natural versus things that are made in the lab. So we can make diamonds in the lab. Normally, those don't get sold as expensive jewelry diamonds. Some do, and that's why we got really cheap, rings that you can buy at Walmart for pretty cheap. And they're technically they're like diamonds, but they're not a natural diamond, so it's going to be super cheap. Most of the diamonds we make in Industrial purposes go for cutting things like diamond studded saw blades, drill bits to drill oil and gas wells. They're all coated with like industrial diamonds that don't necessarily look good. They're not like crystal diamonds with nice shine and facets, but they're super hard, which is what they use them for, drilling and sawing and sanding stuff down. So yes, we do make diamonds in the lab. They're just not held to the same standard as natural diamonds. So
they don't tell anybody. You just tell them.
yeah, no, they're gonna ask where it came from, and in fact, that's part of like the whole supply chain is knowing where your diamonds came from, what country they came from, what mine they came from. Uh, you might be able to sell one to like your buddy down the street, and you're like, "Hey, I got this diamond. You want to sell it or buy it?" But you're not gonna make like enough money off of it to like you can't just show up with like 100 blocks of gold and sell them. They're gonna be like, "Where'd you get this gold from? Like, where'd this come from?" Yeah, then that's not your gold. Like you told the worst lie you could tell because you can't just take stuff off the bottom of the ocean if you find it. There's literal like lawsuits right now about treasure hunters who didn't turn in all the treasure. And yeah, because you don't own the stuff at the bottom of the ocean. Whatever government controls that area does. And if you don't give it to them first, they're not going to play games with you. So
secretly sell it like on the black market.
that's the hard part, though. The black market, how you're going to sell it? You got to unload it slowly over time. You can't just get rich quick.
And I think like in Poland or something, like the law is whatever treasure you find anywhere, even outside of the government, you have to give to a museum.
Yeah. It depends on what country you're at and where you're finding it, but yes, finding treasure at the bottom of the ocean can be very lucrative, but you have to deal with a lot of governments. So just remember, heat and pressure. What it's all about. If I heat and pressurize something, I can change coal into diamonds. I can change one rock into a different type of rock. Probably one of the most famous metamorphic rocks is what is this statue made out of? Marble. Yeah, marble are what a lot of the white statues are made out of, marble rock. Marble is a metamorphic rock. This rock, before it was metamorphosed, is essentially the exact same rock that we have in our driveways around here, that white limestone. Limestone, it's like a brittle, kind of chalky, sedimentary rock made up of a bunch of little ocean creatures that have all died. If you heat and pressurize that, you get this really nice, solid metamorphic rock called marble, which is great for statues. It's great for like fancy things, marble hallways and marble countertops and all that jazz. So marble is probably one of the most used metamorphic rocks as far as like design and buildings. Let's see. Forming metamorphic rocks, we don't need to go through that. Let's get actually to the reading page. So, metamorphic rock formation. We got three things that can really change one rock to another. We have increased temperature, almost to the point of melting. But note that if I increase the temperature enough that the rock does melt, it's not going to be a metamorphic rock. It's going to go back to igneous, because igneous rocks are made from anything that's melted. So if it melts down to magma or lava, it's not going to be metamorphic. It's going to be igneous. But if it gets close to melting, if it gets really, really hot but doesn't get fully melted, then it can become a metamorphic rock. Throw in a little pressure, you're even better. And we'll talk about fluids in a little bit. Usually when they say fluids, they mean water, some form of water. And in hot rocks, water does the opposite of what we think it should do. If I put water in a hot rock, what's going to happen to the temperature? Well, yeah, but in your brain, it's going to go down, right? If I pour water on something hot, it's going to cool it down. Inside the earth, at extreme temperatures and pressures, adding water actually does the opposite. It makes your rocks more likely to melt. It brings your temperature up because you're dealing with a lot of dynamic things there. So, pressure, temperature, and fluids. Increase temperature. What's a way I can increase temperature in rocks in the ground? What's like realistically, how am I going to get an increased temperature? What can bring, like, let's say the rock that I'm standing on right now, what could bring that up in temperature by like a couple hundred degrees? And it's pretty much the only thing. Well, pressure can bring it up, so yeah, maybe it's not the only thing. But think just like physically, outside of pressure, what could come up into the ground and heat my rock up? Magma, yeah, lava, magma. So if I get a Pluton come up, I left my marker over here. Let me draw it over here. If I get one of those Plutons, like we said, was what made up enchanted rock, I get that nice lava lamp bubble that comes up from the mantle and the core and brings this hot molten magma up. All these rocks around it are now going to get heated up. And that heat is going to help with the metamorphic process. So one way to bring your heat up is through contact with an already melted rock. I'm coming in contact with lava. I'm coming in contact with magma. The other way, like Terry said, is pressure. And we learned this in chemistry. If I increase the pressure, I increase the heat. That's always going to happen. Pressure and heat are going to go up and down together. So the more pressure I have, the more heat that I have. So, like I said, it's important to remember you don't melt it all the way. You want your increased temperature, but if you melt it, it goes back to an igneous rock. You want it to stay solid, but be a really high temperature. That's how you get to a metamorphic rock. We're not going to watch that video. It looks like it's from the 70s. So now, pressure. And we're thinking of like big picture kind of stuff. What can help increase our pressure? Like me standing right here and jumping up and down on these rocks isn't going to cause that much pressure in the rocks there. So what can actually squeeze a rock and make it have a lot more pressure that we've been talking about lately? Any guesses?
Plate movements.
Yeah, plate tectonics. Yeah, and if we sit here long enough, you could read just a little bit of it. Is that what you did? Hey, there's no problem with reading. This is resources available to you. But yes, plate tectonics. So if I got two plates that come and they smash against each other, so I got two plates and they're going to come and smash. Maybe they get like a mountain range that pops up somewhere. That pressure of them being pushed together is going to be ridiculous. Like it's going to be an immense amount of pressure. That's going to help bring up my pressure and my temperature to get more metamorphic rocks. And so a lot of times, metamorphic rocks, you will find a lot of these in the middle of like a mountain range. Not at the surface. Well, you might find some at the surface where you can see them. But deep down, like in the heart of the mountain, you will have a bunch of metamorphic rocks because of all that pressure and all that heat that has happened. So let's keep going. Addition of fluids. This is really complex, and we don't have to talk about it too much, but I will point out that if you have, like, let's say I have a Pluton over here. And let me even draw a little bit over here. I got my Pluton. I got a little bit of magma that has come up. I got the surface here. My magma is feeding like a volcano. My volcano's erupting wonderfully. But my magma's coming up feeding my volcano. Fluids are going to help this stuff melt more and be even more melted. It doesn't make sense because in our mind, you put water on a fire, it's going to go out. You're going to lower the temperature. It's not going to be as hot as it was before you added the water. But underground, you have so much heat and so much pressure. What happens to that water? Like what's going to happen to water if it comes anywhere close near magma or lava? It's going to boil. It's going to evaporate. And it's going to turn into a gas. And now my gas is mixing with this magma and lava or the rocks around it, and it's changing them chemically. And what it's doing is it's lowering that boiling point. And so it's actually making it easier to keep this lava and magma boiled. And so they talk a little bit about fluids, but just know, like, I've got to be near an ocean or some sort of lake. I have to have access for this water to kind of get into the rock. It's got to be a lot of water. It's not like, oh, if it rains on my volcano, things might get crazy. That's not enough water. I need like a lot of water down underneath the surface, maybe like an aquifer over here, a package of rock that already holds a lot of water that maybe like we drill water out of. I don't know, that's a little... How do you draw a well? I don't know. That was terrible. But anyways, if you got water underneath the surface, it can affect how your lava melts, how your rocks melt. And so that's what they talk about here for the addition of fluids. Just know that if I add a fluid, it makes my rocks more likely to melt or more likely to be metamorphic and get up to that proper temperature and pressure. Now, how do we classify metamorphic rocks? They're going to talk to you about this. We have two major classifications, and that is, are they foliated or non-foliated? And then the second thing is, what is the parent rock? And so the parent rock is important, and then the foliation is important. Let's see, what are they talking about first? Let me see, though. Foliated, and then they'll talk about parent rocks next. So, foliated. Let's just think of this word. What does the word foliated sound like? What? Fold? Close. That fold's not bad. What was another word that's close to this? Foil. Well, foil, but that's not related. No, the I's on the other side of the L. It's foley instead of foil. But we're getting closer. What else? Go make this connection yourself. It helps a lot more. Has anybody heard of a portfolio? Yeah, or they just call them folios. Or what do we call lots of leaves on a tree? No, a tree is not a bush. Foliage, yeah. Lots of leaves on a tree is called foliage. If your tree has a lot of leaves, it's got good lush foliage. So folios, portfolios, and foliage are kind of what I was looking for here. What foliated means is it has flat layers. Like I have a bunch of flat leaves, I have foliage. A portfolio has what in it? Pieces of papers, drawings. It's like your diary, whatever it happens to be, but it's got a lot of layers of flat pages. And so a foliated metamorphic rock, you can see the flat layers in it. It's going to have flat layers of some sort. You're going to see some sort of orientation. Some of them, well, they're pretty much all going to be parallel. They don't always have to be flat. They can kind of be wrinkled, but they're going to be parallel, and you're going to see flat stuff. For instance, let's see if I can. Let me look up some pictures. Yeah, what's up?
Like a sedimentary rock?
Yes, like a sedimentary rock. And in fact, if you metamorphose a sedimentary rock, it's probably going to be foliated. Let me show you some pictures. Foliated rocks, images. And so, bam, that's like a really good example right here. Foliated stuff, you can see the flat lines in it. So this is a metamorphic rock. This is called gneiss. Gneeiss. Gneiss. The non-foliated rock, this is like a quartz sandstone, maybe a marble, maybe like a dirty marble. But you can see there's no flat layers in the one to the right. It's just a rock. It just looks like a rock. The foliated stuff, you will see either flat colors, or you might actually see, so here's another picture of a foliated rock. You got the black and white bands. Here's like another kind of metamorphic one. You can see that they're not flat, but you can see the different layers, the black and white layers. Here's one. This, it's not the best picture for y'all. Let me open up a new tab and zoom in a little bit. So it's not the best picture for y'all. But you can see all of the layers on the side, right? You can see the layers on the side, and then the top doesn't really show any of the layers. This is another type of foliated rock. So if I can look at the rock and see the different layers, no matter what color they are, if I can see some sort of layers, that's a foliated rock. If I don't see any layers at all, it just looks like a chunk of material, that's non-foliated. So just keep that in mind. Foliated means I got layers or flat pages or leaves or whatever you want to think of it like. Non-foliated is just going to be a generic hunk of rock. Now, where are we at here? They talk about foliated, they talk about non-foliated, classifying minerals. What we got down here? Composition of foliated metamorphic rocks. And then they do composition. Okay. Metamorphic grade, contact, nice. So, what they're talking about here with composition, they're talking about the parent rock. And what does it mean to be a metamorphic rock? If it's a metamorphic rock, what do I know has happened to it?
It's been metaphor.
It's been changed.
It's been metamorphosed. There you go. That's a new word. Metamorphosed. It's been changed. It's been metamorphosed. So that means that it used to be something else before it got metamorphosed, right? So wouldn't it be kind of important for me to know what it used to be? Yeah. That's going to be important for geological work. That's going to be important to know what kind of rock you have. And so what we call that is the parent rock. The parents give you the children, right? And so if I have a metamorphic rock, whatever rock it used to be before it was metamorphosed is called the parent rock. And if you can figure out what type of parent rock you have or what type of metamorphic rock you have, you can figure out the other side of that, what it metamorphosed into or what it used to be. So they talk a little bit about color and seeing stuff. We're not going to try to identify too much stuff. Let's see, what do they get to next? Metamorphic grade. Let me show you the metamorphic grade. Because it's heat and pressure, right? Is heat and pressure just like a on or off thing, like either I have heat or I don't have heat? No, it's a scale, right? I can get a little bit hot, I can get a lot hot, I can get a little bit of pressure, I can get a lot of pressure. So let's see, metamorphic grade rocks. That may not be what I'm looking for. No, that's actually pretty good. This one's going to be perfect. Nice. So, what we have here is getting more and more metamorphic from a place of not being metamorphic at all. So, shale is a regular sedimentary rock. No heat, no pressure, no metamorphose. It's just like a black piece of mud, but a little bit harder in rock form. That's what shale is. Now, I metamorphose it just a little bit, just a slight little bit, and it turns into slate. Does anybody know what we use slate for in construction kind of materials? Nobody knows. Y'all gotta aspire to be like way more wealthy than we're looking at right now. So slate is what did you think of something? No, all right. Slate is what really, really wealthy people use for their roofs. Have you ever seen, you ever driven through Highland Park and you're like, dang, those people's roofs look like it's made of like stone. That's what they're literally using, pieces of stone cut into these little tiles, and they tile their roof with it. You know how long a stone roof will last? Like almost forever. Like the wood underneath it will go bad before the actual stone goes bad. It's really expensive. It's also really heavy. You have to make sure your house is like ready to support a layer of stone on top of it. And so if you're ever driving, like you ever go Christmas light watching in like Highland Park, so you get to see how the rich people have all their Christmas lights, look and see if you can see they got some slate roofs. But if somebody has slate roofs, they got a lot of money. So that's just a little bit more metamorphose. You metamorphose it a little bit more, and it starts to get wavy. It starts to get a little bit shiny. And so this is called phyllite. It's a little bit shinier, a little bit wavier. You go down to the next one, a little bit more metamorphose, more heat, more pressure. I get schist. Schist is the name of this. It's going to be even more shiny and even more flaky. Schist sometimes looks like a rock made out of glitter almost. Just super sparkly, lots of little little pieces and little leaves, and it's nice and foliated. Then you metamorphose even more, and you get to gneiss. Gneiss, and what is this? Migmatite? This is just another type of gneiss. Gneiss, you get heated and pressurized so much heat and so much pressure that your elements literally start to separate. Your lighter colored elements and your darker colored elements start to separate out. And so in these rocks where you didn't really have any different colors before, you heat it and pressurize it just a little bit more, and you start to get these black and white bands. And it goes even more, and they start to get even more separated. And so these black and white stripes here were all just mixed together previously, but that heat and pressure allows them to kind of move and reshape themselves and get into a different position where you start to see these stripes. And so this is not metamorphosed at all. and then you start just metamorphosing a little bit at a time until you get all the way up to the most heat and the most pressure. This is like right on the verge of melting. If you heat this anymore, it turns into magma, and it turns into a different type of rock, an igneous rock. So this is your kind of progression of metamorphic scale in a way. What did they call it? Grade, metamorphic grade. So you can have just a little bit metamorphosed, you can have a lot metamorphosed, or anywhere in between. And then we have two different types. We have contact metamorphism and regional metamorphism. So contact is going to be like this stuff over here. My rock came into contact with some lava or magma. Like my rock's right here, the lava's right here, the magma's right here. It's going to heat it by direct touch. I'm literally in contact with something that's hot and pressurized. That's going to give me my metamorphose. Your other type of metamorphism is going to be your regional metamorphism. What does regional mean? Like if you go to a regional competition, who are you facing? In the region, but the region's bigger than like your local area, right? So region, it's not like state or nationwide, but it's a big area, right? So regional and metamorphism is going to be a big area. Specifically, regional metamorphism occurs when I have those colliding tectonic plates and I'm building mountains. So that whole mountain range will be metamorphic. That's your regional metamorphism. Where here, you're talking about just one small area that has been metamorphosed. Maybe just the area around Enchanted Rock, or around this little hill or whatever. But an entire mountain range could stretch across a whole state or multiple states, and that's all going to be metamorphic in the middle. So contact metamorphism is just touching really close to whatever's touching. Regional metamorphism will be a whole huge area based on plate tectonics colliding. So, that's so sad. Okay, so we're done for the day. At some point in time, my computer died, and so this video is not going to be complete for the people at home. But I did my best. I tried. Oh, no, something got blocked. Blocked by client. Error. Reload. Nope. Whatever. Fine. Just trying to be a good teacher, but no. I don't even know what's happening right now. Is it still recording? Am I talking to myself? Oh, it is still recording.